regular meeting of the College Township Council for Thursday, January 15th. If all who are able would please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get the meeting started, I would like to announce that Council held an executive session after the regular meeting of January 5th to discuss a personnel matter. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor for any members of the public online or in the room who have any comments or would like to bring anything forward for the council. Okay. Seeing none, at this time, would any of the council members like to add anything to the agenda? Bring forward any items for future agendas? Okay. All right, well, that moves us to special presentations. Our first presentation tonight will be a presentation, I think, done jointly by Mr. Bloom and Mr. Keogh on the Thompson's Woods Preserve annual update.
All right, I'll do a quick introduction here. As you mentioned, Susan, Bill Keogh is the chair of the Thompson Woods Preserve Governance Committee. Bill has been the chair since the beginning with this group and was reappointed at their reorganizational meeting this week. And as is our routine, we wanted to come back before you and provide an update of where we've been, where we are, and where we're headed. So I'll handle the history and the present, and I'm going to let Bill handle the future. Bill, I don't know if you had any first words before we jump in here?
I'm fine.
All right. So you obviously are all aware of the property, the 43 1/3 acres that is the Thompson Woods Preserve. It's the forested parcel here almost across from the building. And it's just that. It's a preserve. It's set up for passive recreation and conservation practices. And it's continuing to function in that manner for the time that we've had it. So a little bit of history. Going back to 2000, as you're aware, the property was acquired by Clearwater Conservancy and the deeds were immediately transferred to College Township, 36.61 acres, and State College Borough, 6.75 acres. And then over the years, there was work done throughout the preserve, the development of a management plan, the development of a forest restoration plan, but over time, that diminished to the point in 2018 with the dissolution of the Thompson Woods Preserve Subcommittee. It had originally been a portion of the Millbrook Marsh Nature Center Advisory Committee and was dissolved due to lack of activity. In 2022, roughly, kind of corresponding with everybody trying to get out into nature during the pandemic, we started to receive a lot more comments, concerns, questions related to the preserve itself. And that ultimately led to a discussion between the township and State College Borough about a new governance structure, and formalized through an intermunicipal cooperation agreement was the establishment of two committees, the Governance and Advisory Committee. That cooperation agreement also assigned their authority, established the powers of each committee as well as the membership, and also set the financial obligations formula. So how has it worked? How's it been operating? And this is a little bit new from what you've heard in the past. Governance committee has been structured as a traditional ABC. They've been meeting monthly, almost every month throughout the time that they've been in existence. And they have spent a considerable amount of time on formalizing operations protocols and have started to branch a little bit into specific projects, primarily related to maintenance. The advisory committee was structured very informally and has functioned primarily as an ad hoc committee, particularly when there's technical expertise needed for projects. Truth be told, they have not been real engaged for a variety of reasons. Mostly that there wasn't anything for them to work on, so it's been pretty limited since their first year. One of the things that has been identified really over the last year, maybe 18 months, is that the structure is just not exactly working correctly, and there's some efficiencies to be had. So the committee has had a couple discussions, and most recently at the reorg committee or reorg meeting, they had a discussion about let's take a look at revising this structure. So I'm anticipating here in the first quarter of this year that a proposal will come out of the governance committee with a suggestion on how to reorganize, and that'll be discussed amongst the municipal managers, governance assigned staff, and our key representatives before ultimately coming before the respective councils. It may be taking the form of a merger of the committees or some hybrid of those two. And again, that's in respect to everybody's time, respect to staff capacity to work on the projects that are there. I just think it would function a little bit more coherently instead of the two committee structure, which was, well intended. It just hasn't quite operated the way it was expected. So some of the accomplishments to date, as you recall, there was the established priorities, the four legs of the stool, branding and education being at the top of that list, maintenance of the existing property, vegetation and forest management, which, spoiler alert, was one of the things that you're going to hear from Bill about here momentarily. And last but not least was enforcement. And enforcement is at the bottom of that list because we're hoping that branding and education help kind of become its own form of enforcement on the property. We did secure a dedicated website for Thompson Woods Preserve. So thompsonwoodspreserve.org is now out there and active and live, and this is where we think, this is where the preserve meets the world. This is going to be the piece that continues to grow and where we share resources over time. Credit to our own Shane Adams for creating the GIS-based website. And we've pulled a lot of content through the committee itself. This allows users, since it is GIS-based, allows users to share comments with us, pinpoint issues within the preserve. So if they're out there walking and they find something, they can get right in there and give us an exact location so we can be much more responsive. We've also had a very good engagement with Penn State University. They have provided a series of class projects over the last couple years. I believe we're on our fourth grouping of students, and we've established a really nice relationship there. One of the first projects, actually the first project they did, was a branding and wayfinding concept that was professional grade, in my opinion. I mean, that's actually some of the graphics that they provided to us in large scale. They provided a presentation that kind of walks through their thought process as well. We've had a flora and fauna inventory done at a somewhat basic level, and they've also worked on a number of educational resources and activities. And again, all of these help build on things that you can do in the preserve. And for us, it's an opportunity to learn and grow and keep that relationship flowing. And for the students, it's a lab in their backyard. So it's been a very good relationship. We're anticipating another project this year with a graduate level biology class. So one of the focuses that have also been key here is the focus on maintenance. The committee now is an established point of contact for preserve users to share their concerns. We haven't had a lot, knock on wood, but it's a place where they can go and share their concerns. We've done things like a tree removal to protect private property, some drainage and trail surface repairs, some trail surface repair, particularly around the Aspen Heights housing complex, and a trail entrance bollard at College Township, and most recently the bike board that goes up into the preserve on the bridge that was done by our Public Works crew. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bill, and he can give you a look ahead.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, council and staff, for having us here this evening. There was a period of time, about 10 years or a little more, that the Thompson Woods Preserve existed, where there was little or no activity. And I often think about, well, I certainly don't want to go around trying to reinvent the wheel. But in this particular case, it structurally, in terms of managing and looking at the project, we actually kind of had to go back to create the wheel and start at that level to move forward with the kind of activities that we've been involved with. And that's what we've been doing. I can express to you a little my frustration as chair. I would have liked to be moving a little faster with regard to the preserve and the marketing use of the preserve by the public, but we weren't ready. So as a governing group, we kind of stood back a little bit and looked at what some of the basics were that we needed to do, and that's what we've been doing. We have some things sitting in the wings ready when we get some other parts to the puzzle taken care of. In 2018, Mike Wolf from Appalachian Forest Resources was engaged to do a forestry plan with regard to the property. And he did a pretty extensive review of the forest itself and its components. Best practices says that you ought to do one of those kinds of things about every 5 years. And we felt that we wanted to have, as a governing group, an update for that preserve resource plan. And so we have re-engaged Mike, and Mike is in the process of updating that particular plan. The advantage that we have with Mike doing that at this time is he's had an opportunity to meet with the interests of the governance group and kind of gotten a sense of where we would like to be headed as part of his evaluation and plan for the future. I've seen a draft of that plan. It's not quite finished yet, but I can indicate to you that we've come together fairly closely with regard to the hopes and aspirations of the Governance Council and the needs and so on of the property itself. One of the things that is very apparent with regard to Thompson Woods, as it stands today, the preserve is not very healthy. We have a huge amount of invasive species within the preserve, and the preserve, among other things, is not regenerating with regard to the healthy species and the healthy forestry management of the preserve. Part of that is because the canopy is not allowing for some of the regrowth to occur. And as an aside, we have a browsing issue with regard to our four-legged whitetail friends. And so a lot of the regeneration of the canopy type trees just isn't allowed to regrow. And part of that is, of course, the invasive species as well. So we're targeting, as a governance group, the invasive species issue as our first line of attack. We're at the point of looking at some treatment options that Mike has proposed as the professional, and what those estimated costs are. I can indicate to you that we have an advantage right now. Our neighbor, Walnut Springs, and Lance King from the borough has just done some major work in terms of invasive work and Walnut Springs. Some of you may actually be aware of it, but the control of the invasives and the number of invasives that exist within Thompson Woods is fairly extensive. And I can kind of say to you that we're aware that it may look pretty ugly before it looks better in terms of the needs of us to go in and look at really tackling the invasive issue. that was the experience too that the borough had with regard to Walnut Springs. And Lance has made us fully aware that the culture shock among the users of Walnut Springs initially was, whoa, what's happening here? And we may have a similar response as we move forward and try and attack the invasives. One of the things that is in the background of all of that, and one of the realities that we know we're going to face, and you as council are going to face as the owners, is that once we get the property in a healthy forestry environment, it's going to require annual maintenance to deal with the invasives and that kind of thing. So ultimately, in your budget planning as we go into the future, there's going to need to be, both with you and the borough, some allocation in that direction. I don't think that would be a surprise to you, but I want to mention it up front, just because we're seeing that. In terms of additional activities that are going on that are moving forward at this point, in addition to the forest health issue, our relationship with Penn State and Clearwater and DCNR, especially Penn State, Clearwater, is very good. We appear to be having a working relationship ongoing with Penn State and some of their classes. In relation to that, it's a lot of effort on the part of one of their professors that has brought their interest into our realm. One of the first things that we are aware of in terms of the public relationship with the preserve is signage and wayfinding within the preserve. And we have already identified what appear to be one major and two minor entrance areas to the preserve. The major one being where the parking is, but the preserve actually touches a couple of other external points, and people can enter the preserve from those points, especially if they're walking or biking, and don't require the parking. And so one of the things that we're currently working on now is to formalize where we want to go with our entrance signage and some minor wayfinding. We got really lucky, folks, really fortunate. Our first project with Penn State brought together a group of graduate students who took on the task of providing us with options related to signage and wayfinding. And Mike and I will both tell you that all of them were very good. The one that we seem to be getting the most traction with is probably as good, if not better, than if we'd paid $10,000 or $15,000 to a consultant, and we didn't have to do that. We were just very fortunate with that. We have to develop a long-term strategy for you all as well. And then ultimately, as we move forward over this next year, we're probably going to be coming back to you with some proposals regarding the action of doing certain things. Funding of these projects maybe multi-year in nature. And I'd love to be able to have something to give you right now, but we're just getting started with that. And I'm going to be meeting with some potential funding sources, but we're also looking to find maybe some out-of-the-way places where we might be able to find some funding. I'm anticipating that the municipalities will probably be asked to help us with the match portion of those grants. Most of the grants and funding in this field are matching type of requests, and so I'm hoping that our requests would be in the area of helping us with the match side of the equation. I need to say to you that on behalf of the board, the governance board, we are extremely fortunate to have Mike Bloom as a staff-related leader in this effort. I didn't pay him. I know he's sitting in the room, but from us to you as council, having that, giving us some access to some of your professional staff has just been immeasurable. If we had to go out and start paying for some of that leadership and some of those services, we would have already, started coming to you for budget stuff. So thank you very much for the level of your commitment to the success of this project. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Keogh. Thank you for that, and thank you too, Mr. Bloom.
I promise I didn't pay Bill.
That's what he said. You couldn't hear him, but he said that he didn't pay you. So I'd like to open this up now to council for questions and comments. Before I do, are there any questions or comments from staff? Okay. Mr. Bernier, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Keogh or Mr. Bloom?
Just one quick one for either. For those of you who are around, you remember all the angst over and concern over the effect on the Conservancy once the Hilltop property was developed. Has there been anything? I heard nothing in the presentation. Has there been any impact, any detrimental impact at all that you can see from the development of that property?
Eric, I can share, and actually this question came up earlier today when we were at the Parks and Rec Authority. We've probably seen an increase in foot traffic through the preserve, but it's really hard to quantify as to whether or not it's coming from that property. And in terms of negative impacts, no. Honestly, the complaints that we were getting in 21, 22 have pretty much dried up. We haven't. Now the complaints we're getting is a tree fell across the trail. Can somebody go get that? That's the type of complaints we're getting.
And as follow-up to Mike's comments, and it's a good question, Eric, we have intentionally not engaged the residents of that development in terms of marketing the preserve and the use of the preserve any more than it has naturally occurred, primarily because the preserve is not ready to take on that kind of marketing and effort at drawing those kinds of numbers into its boundaries. We fully intend, however, to once we get some of this invasive stuff under control and so on, we fully intend to engage that group of homeowners and renters. One of my ideas is I would love to have them organize a volunteer trash and kind of removal team that once a week goes through the preserve and collects up anything that somebody has left behind. I think there are a number of opportunities, but that's going to have to be in a later date.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Frank?
No, I'll kudo and Mike for your passion and leadership throughout this. I mean, we've been very fortunate to have that guide us through this. So thank you.
Yeah, and I would just say the same thing, Mr. Keough. Thank you for your leadership, your stewardship, and for the work that you're doing. And also, thank you for letting us know about the work that Mike has done. It's always good to get that feedback. So thank you.
It's not
very
been our
much.
experience, but, you know, so.
That's what I needed.
Thank you. And I anticipate we'll hear back from you at some time this year as you move further along. So when we do,
Absolutely.
we'll make room for you on the agenda. So
Right,
thank you.
there are some things that council is going to have to be made aware of and or carry forward. One of them that Mike mentioned a little earlier was the whole governance structure for the preserve, and it looks like we're getting ready to make a recommendation to the two councils with regard to maybe some changes in the language that exists between the two in terms of their cooperative agreement.
Okay, so
Good.
when we hear from you and Mike, we'll go ahead and we'll make that time on the agenda. We'll look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, we have another special presentation tonight. Lindsay Schock is here to talk with us about the form-based code status update in advance of our joint PC council meeting at the end of this month. So thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, everyone. Tonight, I'm here to really give a precursor to what's happening at our upcoming joint meeting in just a little over 2 weeks. This presentation is geared to give you some insight on where we've been with the code and where we've been going concerning zoning changes in Dale Summit. All right. So it makes sense to start with the vision. So if you can go to the next slide. It's brief. So the overarching vision of the area plan is to transform Dale Summit into the gateway to College Township, establishing Dale Summit as an attractive and instant recognizable place within the context of the larger township, region, and county. The community envisions an activity hub that is vibrant, economically prosperous, socially equitable, and environmentally sustainable. A place through proactive planning and well-tailored regulations, strikes a sound balance between encouraging business and industry expansion while remaining respectful to important community livability factors such as improving housing affordability, providing sufficient public services, and lessening traffic congestion through connectivity for all transportation modes. So I like to say that we plan for our children and we plant trees for our grandchildren. And that was the type of mindset and forward thinking that we really had to have throughout the discussions. I know it's hard today to envision Dale Summit as a place, but as the vision notes, through proactive planning and well-tailored regulations, this could become a reality in the future. So why a hybrid code? Years back, we got a lot of zoning requests throughout the year. They came through the door, you know, this use isn't permitted in Dale Summit. Well, it makes sense there, so we're gonna change the zoning to allow it. But being more proactive, this zoning change is gonna allow for numerous uses, so long as the buildings fit the form that's envisioned for the area. And this isn't a full-blown form-based code. We're using a hybrid version, which is utilizing what currently exists and works. And we're able to use that with some standards that will make the community a more livable area. One thing that we're going to get into at the joint meeting, just as an update, is that the regulating plan. This image is from the Dale Summit area plan, and it is the regulating plan, which is just form-based codes version of a zoning map. But rather than having use districts like our typical zoning maps do, they're actually form districts. So I think that's kind of a good way to think about it. And saying that about the form really gets us into the meat of what we've been doing at the Planning Commission level. So we started with block structure. Of course, Dale Summit isn't flat, green field ready to be developed. Not all of it, there is some. Rather, it holds some capacity for infill development and more adaptive reuse. And that gives us opportunities to establish these types of blocks. And the block structure is important because it helps inform the lot sizes, the lot coverage, the streetscapes, and any other elements of the code that we've been working on over the past several months. Setbacks shape the street, they define the public realm. There's walkability and comfort and community character, all related to setbacks. We reviewed setbacks and brought the buildings closer to the streets for a more human scale and dense development. At the last joint meeting, we ended with showing council what we were going to do with lot coverage and overall design of the area. The streetscape renderings that you see up there are visuals that helped us envision what a new street could look like in Dale Summit. And the Planning Commission really did work hard at trying to keep the vision in mind over the past 18 months or so, and as we move on. One thing to remember, and it's easy to forget, that we did change our zoning back in early 2023. We changed the zoning code early to accommodate the Crew 814 planned residential development, which is now a final, the final plan is actually approved right now. This zoning change really got our toes wet when it came to form-based code or a hybrid code. It allowed us to see what block structure could look like. It allowed us to have some housing types that we're really not accustomed to in this area of town. And Crew 814 in this image, they're proposing 20-foot townhome lots. And that really helped the Planning Commission determine the lot sizes that came ultimately in their recommendation. And not only did the Crew plan help us understand the future of Dale Summit, but we also did some other tactical exercises. If you remember, we had tape on the floor that helped us get a better feel for what the depth of a lot could feel like, lot widths, setbacks, even street encroachments that we talked about, even height. We still have some tape up there on the ceiling, I see actually, so the tape that's all. We used other visuals as well. Tools such as a program called SketchUp we used, and Gridix, which helped us see what's going to work and, more importantly, what's not going to work. And seeing some of these visuals, we think, helped the Planning Commission really form these recommendations. Visuals also helped us identify lot coverage and envision the types of buildings that you could see here, recalling that it's going to be the form, not the use, that's the driver of this code. We also dove into open space requirements, which gets back to planting those trees for your grandkids. And we also talked about parking regulations. It's been a heavy lift, but we've made some headway. And once we get to the joint meeting, we're going to do a deeper dive into some of these recommendations and some more of the details. But one thing I do want to note is that we could use a lot more community input. And it's a township-wide plan. We don't want to do it in a vacuum, so we need the good, the bad, the ugly. We want community members to come in and join us at our meetings and just ensure that this plan and the future of Dale Summit is going to be for the whole community and make it a better place to actually come in College Township. So that's the precursor to the joint meeting.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from any of the staff before I open it up for council? You're all involved in the meeting, so probably not. Mr. Frank, questions, comments for?
No, timely, thank you. Was very encouraged to hear the feedback on the Crew 814, because that's why we kept moving forward with it, is because we thought it fit this vision, and so that we learned from it as much as it learned from us is great. So look forward to the joint meeting.
Mr. Bernier, any questions or comments?
Yeah, Lindsay, just so I understand, I saw the PowerPoint. So when we get to the joint meeting, we're going to get the PC's recommendations on those areas you just covered,
Yes,
right?
you
Okay.
will. You'll have a table that shows the differences between staff's recommendations versus what the planning commission ultimately recommended. There are some differences, but not many. Also an overview of all of the topics that we touched on so far.
Okay, then what is going to be, what's the expectation? That we're going to provide feedback or actually make decisions? Or are we going to get the planning commission's recommendations far enough ahead of the joint meeting to actually assess them and provide?
You should
So
have,
what's the expectation
so
for us?
the plan is to have everything in your hands by the end of the day tomorrow. So you should be getting a packet that includes all of the information that the planning commission received each time we talked about each different element of the draft code. And I think really the expectation from council, knowing that they have these recommendations, the expectation would be, are we going in the right direction? Do you see any red flags? Is it consistent with the vision that the council has for the community at large? And if we are going in the right direction, we'll have a few more elements to conquer, and then we should be in pretty good shape.
Okay, so that level of feedback, that helps, thank you.
No, first of all, thank you for doing this in advance of the meeting. It's very helpful. And I think Eric asked the question. I was still a little unclear on, what we would be expected to come to the meeting with and how to be best prepared for that. And I guess the only other question I have is there anything in particular that you can think of that we need to be focusing on in advance of the meeting? I know we'll get the packet, but are there any particular areas that we might want to pay more attention to?
So open space was a big discussion.
Yeah.
It's different than it is as it currently exists.
Okay.
It's really going to beef up the open space in the area. So, take a look at that. Parking also was a big discussion that we had at the planning commission level. So those are two of the bigger things. We also discussed a little bit the planning, when we talk about the vision, the planning commission kept that in mind, and we just want to ensure that that's still the way forward.
You mean with the parking, the street parking?
Just the overall vision.
Okay, the overall, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's helpful. And I think that's probably all that I had.
Yeah, Lindsay, can you talk a little bit about, the Planning Commission has done great work over the last year or so, and this is kind of the result that we're going to be talking about at the joint meeting. And again, it's kind of a check-in with council to make sure that this is evolving as per the overall concept. But can we talk just a little bit about the things that are still left that need to be addressed by the Planning Commission before staff is in a position to pull everything together in the form of an actual ordinance to then begin that process?
Absolutely. So I mentioned early on in the regulating plan, that's something that we're going to have to kind of dive into just to, make sure that the development pattern is what we are all anticipating with those different form districts. We're also going to have a bigger discussion on the uses that are going to be permitted because, even though it's based on form, the use is still important. So we're going to have that discussion. We do have opportunities for special districts. And a lot of the times, we'd be talking at PC meetings and say, okay, we'll save that for the special district. And so now we have to go back to everything that we saved in the special district and reevaluate that. And really, those are kind of the biggest things that we have to discuss. Unless Mark or Don has any input, I think we should be able to tie up the loose ends.
I think that's it.
Okay. And would that be included in the packet so we can be thinking ahead, just so we're aware of what we might be asked to comment on?
I can incorporate the rest of the elements that need to be discussed
Great.
into the memo.
That would be super helpful. And then one last thing, I did have a question. You talked about public engagement. And so to date, how is the public engagement? Are you getting the public, are you getting the business community in the meetings and giving you feedback? Where are you at with that?
Unfortunately, we're not getting a lot
Right.
of attention. So early on, we did have some developers, which, you know, they were really positive in telling us, you know, this is good, this is flexible, this is what we're looking for, but that was months back.
Okay.
It would be good for, you know, the development community to come back in and just check in, see what we're doing. You know, if we're thinking about a community area or a new place, then, you know, more community members would just be great. Residents of the area, anybody to come in and just, you know, get a little bit more informed about what we're doing. So then when we get to the public hearing that's advertised, you know, it's not like, where did this come from?
So
You know, we
it'll
wanna
be
make
good to
everyone aware.
encourage people to come to the PC meetings to give their feedback at that point.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
I think Lindsay was being very gracious. There has been none. There has been no input from any part of the public to date on the work that the planning commission
Well,
has done.
it's important too, because we need to get it during this part of the process in order to be effective when we move into adopting the ordinance, so,
Yeah,
so thank you for that.
Yeah, the high water mark obviously was the charrette,
Yep.
Yeah,
and that was still very conceptual. That was
Right.
still vision level discussion, and since then, you know, Adam, Lindsay characterized it well. It has diminished to nothing.
We've talked about that we may have to take a heavy lift and go to them, whether it's having some developer focus group type thing that reviews where we are standing with these different elements of it, but trying to get them here has been a little futile.
well, thank you for that honest feedback. It's very helpful to us. Thank you. And if there's anything we can be doing to help with that, let us know. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much, Lindsay.
Good job, Lindsay.
Thanks. And thank you and the PC, because this is a lot of work, and staff for everything that you've done, because this is a lot to do, and it's exciting. Okay, next up, we have no plans tonight. Our next item up for discussion are the reports. We have a manager's update.
Yes, the only update to the basic manager report is I understand that there has been a meeting that's been called for the SPPA. Is it next week, Mike?
Yeah, it's next Tuesday at 9 a.m. It's an executive session to discuss where we stand in terms of the agreements, and that's the level of detail I have at the moment.
And that's the working group.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other item that is part of the manager's update this evening is a follow-up memorandum relative to requests that we had for winter maintenance at Spring Hill Lane, and that's in the packet as well.
Are there any questions for the manager from council? Anything on, okay. Next up are the COG Regional County and Liaison reports, and I think by my reckoning, we had a finance committee meeting. Did the finance committee meet yet?
This morning,
All
It-
right.
a short reorganization meeting of an hour and a half.
Brief.
But we accomplished, we also finished our review of the last two individual fund balance policies. And at our next meeting, we're gonna see the whole thing put together and start seeing what it looks like from a dollar standpoint. So it'll be interesting. Mostly the same committee, one new member. Patton was kind enough to put their newly elected official on finance, but she's got a great finance director helping her out and everything.
Anything else on any of the officers of the committee?
We have the same management team.
Okay. Did you have any committee meetings, Eric?
I had one today over lunch,
Okay.
and And Rich, I know an hour and a half is really short for finance, but I can top you. Our reorg meeting was 2 hours, so.
Yes.
But it was a joint meeting with CAS. The only thing I'd like to mention is, since you asked, Denny was elected chair and Matt Herndon was elected vice chair. We got an update on the PSU class project, and I thought it's from Laura Fowler from Dickinson School, and I thought she said in the presentation she'd already shared that with safety. Is that correct?
She did.
Okay. Then I don't need to report on that other than to say, were you going to mention anything about it?
Yeah, just a couple of points.
All right, then I'll just note that it was a joint meeting with CAS, and of course on the agenda was the recommendation from the executive committee to evaluate and discuss the restructuring, the combining of those two committees. And I'll say that it was the feedback was generally supportive amongst the members. Well, first of all, they saw the value, they saw the overlap in the charge of the two committees, and they understood the value to staff and to elected officials of combining the committees. There were a number of questions that came up, and we put them to staff to get back to us with the answers in March, which is the next time we're going to meet again. But they mostly had to do with fine-tuning issues related to collapsing the two committees into one. Mostly things like, how many subcommittees would we really need in order to still manage the workload? Those kinds of things. So, but nothing that seems to derail the idea that we talked about and the recommendation we made at the executive committee. That's what we talked about at general forum and the recommendation we made at the executive committee.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and Public Safety Committee, we met on Tuesday. We did have that same presentation from Laura Fowler, and she's working with her class on putting together a tabletop exercise in April, and we'll be inviting local electeds to that, looking at a disaster scenario involving a 6-day power outage. And so she will also be coming around to other COG committees to make that presentation. We did have a report from Mr. Snyder. The Center Region Code Administration is holding joint meetings with the Center County Realtors Association so that they can renew the rental unit requirements. Apparently, property owners, people are purchasing properties in the county with the intention of renting the units and then finding out after the sale that that's not something that's possible. So, and Code will also be planning a joint meeting with the realtors and looking at commercial properties as well. So they're trying to be more proactive about that. Mr. Kaufman announced his retirement at the end of this year. So he will be retiring, yes, at the end of this year. So he's giving us 12 months ahead of time, and he did not really talk about his plans after his retirement. So that was a bit of a surprise, and the committee expressed their gratitude to him for his service and also, support for any kinds of activities we need to do to find his replacement. He also mentioned that there was an 18% increase in call volumes in 25 over 24. They're busy, and there were 94,000 active volunteer hours in 2025. So it's a growing program, and so they're looking for us to do as much as we can to support them. And then last but not least, just a heads up, because this affects our township, emergency management, Mr. Risley gave a report, and so between January 25th and February 1st is coming the end of the month with Beaver Stadium and the hockey game. We have 72 hours on that weekend with 10 events planned. So with all the different events being planned at Beaver Stadium hockey, and they will be using apparently the Penn State football traffic plan. So that is coming up for us. And then one last thing, Mr. Risley has encouraged all elected officials and he's encouraged us to remind everybody to take the FEMA information sessions 907 training, the active shooter training online, and that is available now, and I did do it. It takes about an hour, and it is a good training. So I can, that link is in the packet. It's my report from Public Safety. Any other reports? Any staff reports? No? Okay, and I don't see PC here yet, that's not here tonight. The diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging report?
Provided my update at the last meeting. Just note that tonight's the MLK banquet, so Gretchen and Tracy are our representatives there tonight, and I hope they're having a wonderful time.
Okay, thanks. Next up for discussion, we have the consent agenda. Tonight we have 4 items under CA1, the minutes, December 31st, 2025, the public hearing minutes. We have the December 30th, 2025 council regular meeting minutes. We have the January 5th College Township reorg meeting minutes, and we have the January 5th 2026 College Township regular meeting minutes. Under CA2 correspondent, we have a letter from the CCRRA received January 5th, 2026 regarding the enforcement officers. We have an email from Mr. John Peterson dated January 6th, 2026 regarding his resignation from CTIDA. We have an email from the PSATs dated January 9th, 2026 regarding scholarships. We have an email from Mr. John Ferguson dated January 9th, 2026 regarding Public Works. We have an email from Mr. Schaefer dated January 9th, 2026 regarding the casino. We have a letter from the Center County Adult Services from Ms. Ryan dated January 5th, 2026 regarding the point in time homelessness count initiative. And we have an email from Mr. John Ferguson dated January 14th, 2026 regarding the solar power purchasing agreement work group. And then under CA3, we have 3 items. We have a resolution R-26-7 regarding speed limits on Rock Road. We have the municipal manager employment agreement. And we also have the Fiore Fideli Accounting and Auditing Services Agreement dated January 9th, 2026. Would any members of council or staff care to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, if we could pull item G, the John Ferguson email from January 14.
Okay, we'll pull CA2G. Are there any other items for discussion? Eric?
CA2B,
CA2B, letter from John Peterson.
yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Having pulled CA2B and CA2G, take a motion now to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, a second?
I
think that was a second?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda with items CA2B and G pulled, please say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, please, same sign. Seeing none, the consent agenda is accepted. We'll pull item CA2B, email from John Peterson, dated January 6th, and I believe that was Eric, you pulled that.
Yeah, thank you. Reading that, I got the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Mr. Peterson, it was really just a time commitment or a time conflict with the time commitment, but he seemed very anxious and willing to serve in some other capacity that might better suit his availability. Is there any chance that staff could reach out to him about possibly another ABC opening?
I can speak a little
Maybe Carrie
bit.
knows better.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that situation. His workload, he is significantly traveling more, as in lots of different places throughout the week from different states all over the country. So his availability was very limited and spotty in terms of even being able to attend or access any meetings during any point of the day. And aside from that, he's also a father that he coaches different sports and attends things with his kids. So I think just in general, this is probably not a good time in life to be able to taking on to take on these extra meetings. But he is a wealth of knowledge and wants to continue to engage in the work that we're doing, just unable to commit to meetings.
I was afraid that was the answer, but I had to ask.
Well, and he may be able to act as a subject matter expert to the CTIDA when they break out into their work groups.
Absolutely.
That will be good. Okay. And then the next item that's been pulled is CA2G, the email from Mr. Ferguson regarding the solar power purchasing work group.
Yeah, I wanted to make the comment that it's not every day that we get volunteers to do certain things. The only thing I wanted to mention to council here, specifically with respect to John's interest in SPPA, I think that at the moment is somewhat premature, considering that the SPPA program kind of hangs in the balance at the moment. But certainly, we appreciate the interest, but I just wanted to convey to council, this would be a liaison appointment. We have done these outside of our regular reorganization meetings, but that would be a decision for council to make if we had a liaison to a particular committee or subgroup that is functioning out there kind of in a wider capacity. But at this particular time, my recommendation to council would be not to make such an appointment until such time as it becomes more apparent the direction of the overall program. So that was all that I wanted to really convey to council tonight.
Thank you, because we do appreciate, he had been in touch with us earlier, and so this was a follow-up on that email, so we appreciate his offer. And there is a meeting of the work group coming up?
Yeah, there is, again, an executive session scheduled for Tuesday of next week at 9 a.m. And hopefully have a little more clarity coming out of that as to what the future may hold, but yet to be determined.
Okay, so staff could reach out to Mr. Ferguson and advise him that right now we're on hold waiting to hear back from after that executive session. Is he on tonight?
Now, Eric has a hand raised,
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eric, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thanks. The only reason I'm asking this is that Gretchen was at our joint meeting today as our climate action and sustainability rep, and we had a conversation about this. So a question and a comment: if we got around to appointing someone to this position, would it be in place of Mike or in addition to Mike?
Yeah, again, from my perspective, I think that is yet to be determined. I think
Okay.
that council has to have a debate or a conversation about whether or not it's appropriate to have a liaison. Would you like to have a liaison? I think all of those are subject to council deliberation.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand what level of, if this was changing the level. Anyways, and I support that, and I support exactly what you suggested we do in a follow-up. But I want to mention that we have a new council member who has invested considerable amount of time on behalf of the school district in this arena and has expressed an interest, if this were to continue to move, would not at all object to being the person representing College Township. And if we got to that, we might want to think real hard about that, given, like Mike, the background that she's had in this endeavor to date. Not sure if you'd want to mention that in the reply, but that was more just for general information, since she's not here to mention that tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Just a quick question.
Yes, please.
Wasn't the original tasking that our representative would be a member, an elected official, or a member of municipal staff? I'm going back a ways.
I've got to go back to 2018.
Right, so, yeah, so we may need to make sure with the group that anybody outside those.
There have been elected officials that have participated at various times throughout this multi-year process. Primarily, the elected official participation has been on the school board end. But there have been occasionally other elected officials that have participated as part of the working group, Mike, if I'm correct.
Yeah, you're correct. It's been a little bit of a variety, but yeah, currently, vast majority is individual staff. To your point, right now, there is one citizen rep that is on there, but he came from the school board, and it's the continuation of,
Okay.
he'd been at the table for quite a while.
I wasn't really asking an elected official, I was asking a non-elected official or a staff member, whether that might create a thing, and so I
Yeah,
understand that.
that's the one current, what I consider a citizen rep at this
Okay.
point, Peter
Yep,
Buck,
yep.
who obviously had just gone off school board, but had been with this project for its entirety, so.
Well, and I think we need to find out more about that, what the next steps are through the executive session.
right.
And then we can regroup perhaps in a council executive session to talk about that and make a decision. So we'll wait to hear back and we'll wait for your report.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, we've taken the 2 items for discussion. If there are no further concerns or comments, questions, I would take a motion to accept those items from the consent agenda.
Move to accept CA2B and G.
Okay.
Second,
All right, all those in favor accepting a consent agenda item CA2, B, and G, please say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, please same sign. Okay, these items are accepted. Thank you. Next up for discussion, we have old business. OB1 is the building renovation proposal. And Mike, this is a potential action item, and you will give us an update on your memo?
Yeah. So the first part obviously is the prelude and what we all know well. The building that we're in currently is approximately 30 years old. Houses most of our key departments here. Obviously, Public Works has its own separate operation, but we do have Public Works administrative staff and some of the technical staff in the building as well. And as you know, growing community, growing staff, we've just reached a point where our spatial needs, our operational needs have called on us to look at the facility and ways to make it more efficient for both the community and the staff moving forward. In '25, we engaged Kimmel Architecture, formerly Kimmel Beaugret, to complete a needs assessment, space planning, and conceptual design study of the building. They did a nice job with that work. The study itself confirmed that this existing building can accommodate our current and future staffing plans, and with some internal relocations, become more efficient for folks coming in the door. Essentially, and that boils down to, one of our highest traffic areas is currently on the 2nd floor of the building, and that's not really ideal in terms of customer service. So for the '26 budget, as this has continued to move forward, as you'll recall, you had a line item of $175,000 for the next phase of design and engineering to continue advancing this building renovation project, with the anticipation that there would be a professional services contract executed sometime here early in 2026. On January 9th, we were in receipt of a proposal from Kimmel Architecture to complete the full architecture and engineering services required for design, bidding, and construction of the municipal building renovations. That proposed fee that they put forth is $151,800, which is obviously within the budgeted amount. Just for kind of point of order, with professional services under the second-class township code, they are typically exempt from a competitive bidding process. And in those instances, what College Township has historically done has either done a direct appointment or has done a request for proposals or qualifications. That brings us to a staff recommendation at this point. Given the existing relationship with Kimmel Architecture, given the fact that they were well qualified and performed well during the first part of this process, and given that they were selected through a competitive RFP process, we're very comfortable with them, and it also helps that they're in under budget as to what we had put forward. So staff's recommendation is a little bit different than what's in the memo as written and put in your packet, is asking council for your authorization for us to continue to work towards an agreement with Kimmel Architecture. We recognize after review there's some things, some fine-tuning that still needs done, but in principle, we believe that what they've provided is what we need to advance this project here this year. Further, we're also asking to kind of reconstitute the Municipal Building Renovation Committee and have that consisting of Mr. Frank, Amy Kerner, Public Works Director, Shane Adams, our Public Works Technology and Operations Manager, and Adam and myself. And that group would ultimately be the one that would work with Kimmel to bring forward a contract. You certainly have options in this vein. You could ask us to do that and bring it forward to at a future meeting. You could form it in the shape of a not to exceed type contract where you authorize the manager to execute that if you're comfortable going that route. So you have options, but your two recommendations again is to authorize us to continue working with Kimmel Architecture as the potential consultant to complete the full architecture and engineering services required for design, bidding, and construction, and also to reconstitute the Municipal Building Renovation Committee to work with Kimmel Architecture on that next phase.
Okay. And the other item included in the memo was the full scope proposal.
Yep.
From Kimmel. Okay. All right. Are there any questions from staff before I open up for council discussion? Okay. With that, then I'll open it up. Mr. Frank, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Bloom?
No, I had as a member of the previous committee, or I got the working group, got a glimpse at this prior to this, and I think they did a very good job through it. There's a couple little clear up items, but the broad strokes are all in place. I would just express I would have no problem moving this forward to not exceed the 158 and the manager execute, but
Okay.
we'll see where it goes.
Thank you. Mr. Bernay, questions or comments from Mr. Bloom?
Yeah, I had a similar experience as Rich with them, quite competent. I have no problem at all working with them. My question is, since Rich brought it up, the not to exceed, with all projects like this, Mike's already, I guess, hinted at it, there's going to be some scope creep, or there's going to be things we didn't think about or we're going to need to engage them. I'm assuming staff is comfortable with their ability to respond to that and the cost, the additional cost that we will have to no doubt incur as we move through this and discover what we didn't know or didn't think of. And that's where the not to exceed comes in. I don't want you to have to come back to us every time we need to add a couple $1,000s to this. I mean, what's staff's thoughts there?
One option to, kind of splitting the difference is you budgeted 175. So that provides you a ceiling. I'm comfortable, quite honestly, either way, to do it as a not to exceed or to bring it back to you at our next meeting or the meeting thereafter. I think based on the schedule that they have alluded to, this waiting until February doesn't slow us down overall in terms of what we want to do. Maybe slips a couple weeks, but nothing too extreme. So.
Okay, then I can support either if the motion is to not to exceed and the amount in the draft agreement. I'm fine with that as long as staff doesn't think it'll be a burden to the project to come back to us.
No, I think excuse me, Eric. Yeah, I think that if in fact we do need to come back, I think this should be the not to exceed at the 151. If in fact there are changes, I think it's a good check-in point with council regardless. And so bringing those back, I think, is entirely appropriate. And I don't anticipate it slowing things down. As Mike said, we meet every 2 weeks, so we typically will be able to accomplish things pretty readily.
And our experience with Kimmel is they're very responsive and very aware of the schedule as well. So I would just echo what Adam shared.
Okay.
Okay, I remember the protracted discussion we had at General Forum over the not to exceed number versus a number slightly higher than that, and I'm good with Rich's suggestion.
Well, it could be, how about 155?
Round up.
How about a not to exceed of 155? That covers there will be reimbursables. It's not part of the fees and everything, but it just gives staff that leeway if they need to add something. The only thing I would offer is if you review through the policy, they haven't missed much. So the only thing I would really be worried about is the structural and MEP assessment. If that came and required a second level of investigation, but I don't think it will, but I don't know. I didn't build the building, but
And it is 30 years old,
yeah.
so the potential is there. So it sounds like there's an agreement to make the first motion as a not to exceed motion. Would one of the council members like to make that motion?
Well, can I make a combined motion?
You can.
You may.
You
Okay.
may, if you'd like to. Please do.
Authorize staff to continue forward with Kimmel Architects and negotiate and finalize a proposal not to exceed $155,000 and authorize the manager to execute the same.
Okay, and the second part too.
That was all in one.
Okay, all right.
Staff can tell me if they need something else.
Well, and the second motion we would need is to appoint the,
I was hearing that we didn't need that.
I mean, they're constituted as just
okay,
confirming your comfortable level with
okay.
that.
Excellent. All right,
All right, I'll second that.
okay, all right. All those in favor of the motion as proposed by Mr. Frank, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. All right, the motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Frank. Thank you,
My
Mr.
pleasure.
William.
Thank you all.
All right, next item up for discussion is OB2, the streetlight policy review. This is also a potential action item. So we've been asked to review the policy as it is for the township right now, and then there's also been discussion of a citizen request. So, Mr. Broombaugh, if you would.
Yep, thank you. As you may recall, back last year in November, we received an email request for a streetlight on Mulberry Lane in Lamont from a husband and wife. And we had referred them at that time to the existing College Township streetlight policy. So what is attached here this evening is that policy. This was originally developed in the year 2000. It was one of the very first policies that we placed on the books during my tenure here. And I think the way that it is structured kind of reflects that it was a first ever policy of this type. But it was once reviewed in 2014 and some modifications were made. But essentially, it sets out why, and at that time that this was originally adopted, the township had just a year or two previously eliminated the streetlight assessment for residents. And the township assumed all those costs and essentially grandfathered all those existing streetlights in that heretofore, or before that time, I should say, were in fact at least partially supported by real estate tax assessments, or I should say streetlight tax assessments on individual properties. They contributed toward the ongoing electrical cost and upkeep of those lights. So at the time that the tax was abolished, the township took and assumed all responsibility. What was obvious was we didn't have a way to add more streetlights if we needed. And so this policy was created, and it's only ever been used on one occasion that I'm aware of where we've had all of the elements of the policy be met based off a individual request and a streetlight erected, but I can't remember where we did it. but it was one time, Mr. Baker was our engineer at the time. It may have predated Don's arrival here.
I don't recall it.
But it's only ever been used once successfully. One of the key provisions of this particular policy does, however, talk about a substantive need, whereby the municipality has the ability to identify through a series of criteria whether or not there's a need for a streetlight, even if, and basically should it come to our attention through resident contact that there's a particular problem at an intersection. Based on the analysis that's provided here, the township can make a determination that it's a substantive need, and those costs would not need for construction of the light would need to be borne by residents. Otherwise, while the township will take care of all the maintenance and the ongoing electrical cost, if it's something other than a substantive need, it requires signatures of property owners on four corners in order to meet the criteria of this policy in order to have a street light installed. And it would be installed at the cost of those residents. After the installation, the township picks up all the remaining costs going forward. So that's essentially the policy. But we haven't looked at it. We very, very rarely have used it. But essentially, that's what we have on the books at the moment in terms of making these determinations.
So, just to
Sure.
review that, so the township would bear the cost of constructing the streetlights if there were a compelling need.
That's correct.
And then if there were not a compelling need, there's a second option for the residents who might be requesting that to go through the process and then at their own cost purchase and then have the light constructed, and then the township would bear the maintenance cost for that.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, then we'll open up for discussion. First, the policy review. And I don't see that the Cawthorns are here. They're certainly not here in person, and they're not present online at this point. Okay. So then, Eric, I'd like to open up the discussion with any comments, questions.
Sure. Thanks. I have a comment, won't be popular, and then a couple of specific questions on the current policy. The comment is that the policy kind of assumes, and I'm not being critical, I think this is a good opportunity to revisit something, that we haven't in a while, but it kind of assumes that we have a good solid baseline of streetlights in all the areas that they are warranted. And that the process for having residents request, and if need be, then residents pay for the installation of additional ones, assumes that there shouldn't be a streetlight there in the first place. Okay, that's more a philosophical comment, but I think it's more important that to consider that as we move through any revisions. The other part to that comment is we now have a sidewalk master plan, and we used to set a criteria not dissimilar to what we have on the page 3 of this. We used the classifications of streets, arterials, collectors, those kinds of things, intersections, to determine whether sidewalks are warranted in that area. And there's an awful lot of overlap there. If we're saying that sidewalks are critical, sidewalks are critical in these areas for mobility, then in most cases, lighting is necessary, to accommodate that mobility fairly. And again, this is not a criticism. We have just grown, and
Absolutely.
we've been hitting things. So I think I offer, at least for consideration, that we look at policy any policy revisions here with an eye on the sidewalk master plan and the criteria that we used there. For example, maybe, and I'm just saying maybe, there's areas that are, the highest priority pieces of the missing sidewalk network, maybe they're exempt. And just using this as an example, maybe they're exempt from residents requesting for and then having to pay for the installation. It would seem kind of, I'd like to make sure we have consistency there. And then as far as the questions go, I wanted to know what the exception at the top of the second page, the second bullet item, what that meant, the exception, the Township reserves the right to hold this policy in abeyance, etc. And let me give you the other two, because then we can get through them all at once. I know that some power customers and maybe some municipalities pay for the electricity, the electricity cost of the light on a tariff basis, just a flat rate per light. I wonder if we do that, or if that is an option to us as opposed to metering each of these lights, or however else we pay. And then the last question is, when we talk about ongoing maintenance costs, are there ongoing maintenance costs outside of electricity? In this day and age with LED lights, are we actually going out and ever replacing street lights? Those were my questions, so we can tackle them all at once at the same time.
Yeah,
Or we can continue around the room.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll hear from Mr. Frank and see about his questions and concerns, and then combine the discussion with staff.
Sure. I think the policy, it could use freshening up, but in general, it catches the broad strokes. And, the big thing was, if somebody brings it to our attention that a street light would be good somewhere and we agree with them, there is provision in this that we pay for it, so which is great. The only thing to meet Eric's thought is when it, under the evaluation criteria, right now there's 4. Another one could be added with regard to support of pedestrian safety and everything. That could be another criteria that would put it into the compelling need category and everything. So the only thing I will say, yeah, LEDs fail at power surges all the freaking time. So there is that, but do we repair, is West Penn putting this in, or are we putting it in and then we?
West Penn provides a limited amount of maintenance on these lights. So there are occasions where we have, even quite recently, we have arranged for the replacement of different components.
Okay.
So, you're looking at me like I'm wrong.
No.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry. I thought maybe I.
You're never wrong.
Thank you. That's the right answer. But no,
Mike walks on water.
you're right. There are failures, and we've been very fortunate. And by the way, we do pay on a tariff
Per light.
from a township standpoint. But they do fail occasionally. Fortunately, it's been rarely. But yeah, we will actually, for the most part, if something goes down, we reach out to West Penn. We find out what they aren't going to do, and depending upon that evaluation, then we take the appropriate action.
But it's not an overwhelming
No,
budgetary
no,
consideration.
No.
Yeah,
It's easily absorbed
Yeah.
in through the signal line items. Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, like I said, it could use some
Yeah.
modernizing.
Modernizing, and again, I think that your comments, Eric, were very well taken. This is a 6-year-old policy, and at the time, again, we were just coming out of a period where the township did basically nothing relative to the streetlights, and we're actually assessing individuals for having those lights in proximity. So I think that the policy, actually the tone of the policy reflects that, but things have changed in 25 years. So things are different today, and we do have other community considerations, and I think the analogy or the comparison with the sidewalk ordinance is a good one. We have other priorities today than we did 25 years ago.
Could I offer an interpretation of the exception thing? So the policy says somebody must ask for it.
Right.
So this, you're saying, yeah, in there's certain circumstances, somebody doesn't have to ask for it.
Right.
The township feels it should go in there. Is that what that?
That's exactly what it
That
is.
was
Yeah,
the
the
int-
township,
okay.
yeah, the second-class township code grants some fairly broad, similar with sidewalks. The township has the ability to put sidewalks wherever the township feels that sidewalks need to be placed, and it's very similar with the streetlights.
Got it.
Okay. Any other comments from staff? Okay. So it sounds like that the temper of the council is to step back and have this revised, the policy revised, and it would include the criteria that was mentioned under policy assumptions, aligning the policy details with the matrix in the sidewalk master plan ordinance, and generally updating and modernizing the policy. So, rather than taking action, if we could ask staff to take the comments council's made tonight and incorporate those in a revised, revising the policy and bringing it back at a later date for us to review.
Absolutely.
And then continue whether we keep this as a policy and then make those decisions at a later date.
Very good.
All right. Any further questions or comments from council? Okay. All right, well, that takes care of old business for tonight. And the next item up is new business. That is the College Township employee boot policy. And Ms. Kerner is not here tonight. Will you be discussing that? Who will take
Actually,
discussion?
I'm gonna ask Mark, as a member of our safety committee, to maybe add a little color commentary here. Essentially, this is an existing policy that we have. And the safety committee had discussions around the fact that it's very clear that the policy originally was crafted to address our road crew and water crew, who are obviously out in the field in ditches all around relative to the boot policy. But it was raised that there are other individuals of the township staff that are also have occasion and need and responsibility to be out and about at various construction sites. So the safety committee had some deliberations, Mark, if I'm getting this right, you can step in and correct me here, about the idea, the possibility that perhaps that this should be expanded to any of those employees that actually might in fact have a need to be out on site at various locations. So,
Yeah, this was actually brought up by a member of the safety committee who realized what the policy said, and against policy, an employee who needed boots for a job was provided with them. And this was more of a housekeeping thing because all of us, Carrie, Lindsay, me, we're on job sites. A lot of them are requiring full PPE with the hard hats, safety glasses, proper footwear. So this was more. I mean, the township has generously provided when they're needed. Some of the employees have just purchased their own things, but this is more of a to bring it in line and allow for that by policy.
Okay. And so you've included in the packet the revised, a draft of the revised policy, and that includes comments from the HR.
yes, at your table this
coordinator.
evening. At your table this evening. Unfortunately, it didn't make it into the into the packet, but the HR specialist did in fact provide comments. The only changes are those that are, those words that were added are underlined in bold. And so it applies to any College Township employee whose essential duties and responsibilities. So the word "any" was included there too, in the words of the HR specialist to make it more inclusive. And those are the only modifications that, that were offered up from HR.
All right, that's pretty straightforward. It broadens the benefit for any employee. So then, are we being asked to pass a motion to authorize the revision of this policy? Is that what the action
Yeah,
is for
or
tonight?
move to approve the revised policy, yes.
All right. After review of the hard copy that we have, which is an update from the packet, are there any further questions or comments from council members? Rich?
Just a clarification. What's in Dropbox versus this, they look very different.
They look different.
The format is different.
Oh,
The Dropbox format looks a little bit more raw. This looks like a more formal policy format. And
Yeah,
also
this
the-
looks like
Okay.
more fun.
Yeah,
and I'm sure, as she often does, the HR person took the liberty of properly formatting the policy.
Oh,
But
okay.
I think you changed, the substantive changes that you're seeing are format changes. The wording is the only addition.
Now this is just this cleaned up.
yeah. And I think that the piece that was on the, in the packet, the employee eligibility not specific to position above, if you look at the language in that, that's been incorporated in sections that are written up as separate sections in this
If
policy.
this is, if there are questions, we'll be happy to bring this back.
No, I support the, so actually, all of the stuff in here, for me, I was gonna simplify it even further, and I was just gonna say, anybody that the safety committee deems should have this stuff, kind of thing, and I think so in the one in the packet, it talks about employee eligibility not specific to positions above, and it goes into, petitioning their supervisor in writing for necessary and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I was putting it in, there's a reason we have a safety committee. And I'm glad HR chimed in, because I thought about making HR the point of that, but then I was thinking more that the safety committee, can opine in on that kind of stuff. Fully support expanding who's eligible for this and what they're eligible for. It's a low-cost investment in the safety of our staff. So I have, whatever the final policy is, I don't have a problem with it. Keep it as simple as possible.
Mr. Bernier?
Exactly what Rich said, especially the part where delegating eligibility for it to the safety committee for the reasons that he said.
Then what I would recommend then is let us make the revision to delegate the authority to the safety committee for the authorization, and we'll bring this back here at a later date.
Awesome.
We'll accept we will accept your recommendation, and we will defer this to a later date.
Excellent.
Okay. That takes care of NB1. We'll look for that under old business next time. And then that brings us to staff informatives. We have two items, the December 2025 Ordinance Enforcement Officer Report, and SI2, which is the 2025 Ordinance Enforcement Officer Year-End Report. Are there any questions or comments from staff on any of the staff informatives? Anything from council? Rich? Eric? Nothing? Okay. Any other matters from council or staff at this time? Okay. Well, then if there is nothing, I would take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Come off mute, please.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. All right, the meeting is adjourned.